Welcome, everybody. We are delighted to see those joining us in person at the Economic Club of Indiana. So thank you for coming today. This is our second meeting of the year. We are the place to be challenged by leading speakers and advance great ideas collectively. My name is Kathy Langham, and I am president of Langham Logistics. I'm also very honored to serve as president of the Economic Club of Indiana this year. If you haven't already, please make sure you check in by scanning the QR code at your table. So just like we're doing in restaurants nowadays, scan that thing and put your email address. That way we can keep in touch with you. Before I introduce the president's table, I'd like to take a moment to thank this season's presenting sponsor, One America. Please join me in a big round of applause to show our appreciation for them. Let's also take a moment to thank all of our platinum sponsors for this year. You'll notice that some of the banners are outlined in gold. That means that these sponsors have been with us for over 10 years. So for those folks, thank you very much. You're the ones who keep us coming and having these great luncheons, so thank you. Last year, many of our luncheons were the top trending events on Twitter. Let's keep it going by expanding today's conversation through social media. So if you haven't already, get out your phones and post, tweet, like us, so all your friends will know you're hanging out at the Economic Club Luncheon today. Our Twitter handle is @EconomicClubIN and can be found on your table too. So what has been really fun about today so far is when you have a local speaker like DuJuan, everyone knows him and everyone's coming up and there's just a buzz in the room that is very, very fun. So I'm delighted to do a very brief intro and then hear from DuJuan briefly. He is a native of Indianapolis who started his television career as an account executive for WTTV soon after graduating from the Butler University. Okay, so he's been at this for over 30 years, and we're going to see a quick video on introducing more about DuJuan, and then he will come up and join me, and we'll have a Q&A. So thanks.
He began his career in television as an account executive and quickly rose up the ranks to owning numerous television stations and becoming the only African American in the United States to own and manage every aspect of a Big Four affiliate. In 1989, DuJuan McCoy took his first job in television at WTTV as an account executive. He was promoted to Director of Sports Marketing in '94, and shortly after that, DuJuan's business ambition and drive started to take over. Over the next 13 years, DuJuan moved his family around the country working for small, medium, and large ownership groups. DuJuan's passion and drive for excellence brought him to the hierarchy of television management. In 2007, all while honing his leadership and management skills, McCoy enrolled in the National Association of Broadcasters Broadcast Leadership Training Program, a 10-month MBA-style program that teaches experienced TV executives how to purchase TV stations. During his participation with the program, McCoy agreed to purchase 7 TV stations in West Texas, which included 2 Fox affiliates in San Angelo and Abilene, Texas. It was at that time he became the only African American to own, operate, and manage every aspect of his TV stations. And in 2012, McCoy divested those stations in order to move up to larger TV markets. McCoy also gives back and pays it forward by becoming a dean to this program since he completed the course in 2008. With both his time and money, he teaches others the skills and knowledge he has learned in the business so that he is not the only one. McCoy's success in management and ownership attracted big investors like Bain Capital, U.S. Bank, and Alta Equity Partners. And in 2015, he purchased the CBS and Fox affiliate in Evansville, Indiana for $27 million. He immediately hired 67 new employees and launched 52 hours of local news per week on those stations. 2 years later, he purchased NBC, Fox, and MyNet in Lafayette, Louisiana for $40 million, and again expanded the local news presence, along with initiating the imaging slogan of focused on family and the community on all stations. Once again, with these purchases, McCoy is the only African American in the United States to own, operate, and manage every aspect of a Big Four affiliate in America. And today,
back to the place I belong.
McCoy has come home. In 2019, McCoy purchased Wish TV and WNDY, the CW and MyNet affiliates, in his hometown of Indianapolis. Perry Sook, CEO of Nexstar, said, "We are delighted to be working again with DuJuan McCoy, as the transaction announced today represents the third time that Nexstar has structured an agreement with Mr. McCoy, which furthers the Federal Communications Commission's goal of increasing television ownership diversity." Marita Cooley, CEO of MMTC, also echoed, "This transaction is an example of the achievements that can be made for diverse voices and ownership when there is access to opportunity. DuJuan McCoy is one of the nation's finest and most competitive broadcast operators. The television viewers of Indianapolis are surely the biggest winners in this deal." Today, McCoy is on every national broadcasting board of directors and continues to be a strong advocate for the diversity and inclusion in media and media ownership. McCoy also constantly advocates on the Hill and regulatory agencies to continue to advance diversity and inclusion in media in the United States of America.
Oh man, this is nice. Thank you guys for being here. This is wonderful. Actually, for me, this is an honor, and I'm very grateful. When you grow up in the way I grew up and you do what I've done, when you read about the Economic Club of Indiana, you don't think that's for you. Well, I didn't think that was for me. So when I got invited, it was like, wow. And I looked at the list of folks that spoke at the event. I didn't have to think twice about speaking at this event. So thank you for being here, and I'm honored to be here.
Welcome. The honor is ours. Thank you. Thanks for making the time to be here. So you are an owner-operator, and that is a little different than just being a president of a TV station or something like that. So it's a lot different. And my first question is, how do you think about remaining relevant in this day of Instagram, Twitter, all the social media? How does a television station work toward remaining relevant and even growing?
So I'll try to give you the short answer to that. When I owned TV stations in smaller markets from 2007 through 2019, it was a different environment. It was a smaller market, and there wasn't that much gravitas in the market. The markets were small, and I couldn't get any traction from a eyeball standpoint. When I came to Indianapolis, that entire vision changed, because Indianapolis is a pretty large market, and it has 2 million people here, okay? So when I came here, and my staff is sitting back in the back, one of the things they said, "What are you gonna do for digital?" And I said, "Hey, I'm a broadcaster. I don't do digital, I'm a broadcaster." And I got these little goo-goo eyes, okay? I got people looking at me like, oh my, he's not gonna do digital. And digital, my digital department, my website department, was an integral part of the way they ran Wish TV. But my prior life in smaller markets, I didn't even have websites to some TV stations because it wasn't that prevalent then. That was 2019, okay? So how I stay relevant here today is what we do as a broadcast TV station on the linear screen and the big screen is just as important as what we do on the digital screen, okay? Most of you guys don't know this, but during the FedEx shootings, we had over 190 different countries visit wishtv.com. It's only 194 countries in America, in the world. 190 different countries visited our website. 2021, we broke a record on the digital front. We had 84 million page views. 84 million page views, okay? That's incredible. What I learned when I came here from my smaller markets and coming back here is that digital gives you a platform that can go beyond your local community. We had 16 million different people visit wishtv.com in 2021. There's only 6.5 million people in Indiana, okay? So what I've learned and how I try to stay relevant is keeping in mind that my big screen TV and my digital properties, they go hand in hand. I don't call my reporters anymore, they're content providers, okay? They produce content, and not only are they doing the content stories and the investigative stories for the big screen, but they're doing short snippets online so that those stories can be read and we can impact viewers not only on the big screen, but digitally as well. We also created a podcast network. We've created the All Indiana Podcast Network, and we did it based on local communities and local folks wanting to have access to podcasts. We created 2 studios. Now, when you produce a podcast in the Wish TV studio, we broadcast that podcast out on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, we do it for you. So we try to stay relevant by trying to watch the trends of what's going on in media. And the hard thing about media is that you don't know where people are going to be. If you don't know where people are going to be, you have to try to be where they are, and that means everywhere, okay? A couple years ago, nobody had ever heard of TikTok, okay? TikTok's one of the hottest social media platforms in America now. I don't know what the next one's gonna be, but there's gonna be something that comes out. So we as a media company, we try to be everywhere where everybody is that wants to consume media. We take it a step further with Wish TV and with Circle City Broadcasting. I like to be on the forefront of everything. I like to be on the cutting edge. I'm an entrepreneur guy. There's not a lot of layers of management and leadership in my company. I make the decisions, so when we do something, I can do it pretty quickly. I'm a phone call away, and you guys have probably listened to some of my podcasts. I'm like an ATM machine, I don't close, okay? That's what I tell my folks, and they can call me anytime. So again, we just try to stay relevant by being everywhere that we believe customers will want to be.
Yeah, and that is critical for Indianapolis, right? Is it game-changing for us to suddenly something that happens in Indy at one of our companies or something could be everywhere?
Yeah,
through your station?
so yeah, yes, from a digital standpoint, the whole media landscape has changed over the last 5 years, and it's going to continue to change. It used to be when you did a linear story, okay, and it was an investigative story, the story popped up on the screen and it went away after it did the 2 minutes on TV. Now, if you do a story, it stays forever. It never comes down because the internet really never shuts down, okay? So it's a different game now. Mm-hmm. I am, again, an entrepreneur, and I think a little bit differently from the bigger companies in that I'm nimble and I have a really, really, really good platform here. I have a really, really good facility here, and I feel like I understand the media game. I would love to make Indiana, in Indianapolis, a content provider for the United States and hopefully the world. That's one of the things that I'm working on. What I mean by that is I got a 69,000 square foot building here, and I got 150 employees that are eager to produce content, okay? And if I can produce content that can play in other markets, that means I'm producing content right here in Indianapolis. And if somebody wants in Indianapolis wants national exposure, I want to make it so that you can walk down to 1950 or drive down to 1950 North Meridian Street and you can have national exposure right in your backyard. Ted Turner did it with Atlanta when he launched CNN. There was in New Orleans, they produced movies there. I want to be like a New York, LA, Chicago as it relates to content. And I think we can do that here in Indianapolis. You guys saw the video earlier, the show Lifestyle Live. How many people have seen that show or heard of that show? Show of hands. How many people have heard of Indie Style? Indie Style was on the air for 13 years here. Indie Style does not travel outside of where? Indianapolis. So we kept that same audience and renamed Indie Style to Lifestyle Live, and now that show can travel outside of Indianapolis. Wink, wink, nod, nod. There's a possibility that that might be syndicated across the country come fall 2022. That's the plan.
That is awesome.
And what that means for Indianapolis is when Butler University or Martin University wants to get national exposure, all they got to do is call DuJuan McCoy, and if it's something relevant for the lifestyle show, there's a place for you to be on the lifestyle show, okay? So that's what I'm trying to do, not only with that show, but multiple shows, and you'll hear later that I'm still in the process of trying to launch a news network.
Yeah. I think you're going to get a lot of follow-up from this.
Okay, okay.
All the entrepreneurs, have you ever heard of Langham Logistics? Audience, I forgot to say it a minute ago, but if you have any questions, the great thing that DuJuan has offered us is just all Q&A rather than remarks than Q&A, so we have the opportunity to ask him some questions. He told me that nothing is off the table, so just fill out the cards or get the information to us and we'll sort them out and go through them. I already have a little stack here. So let's start back at the beginning. So what drew you into the news business?
Actually, it really wasn't the news business, it was the TV business. While I was a student at Butler University, and I point back to Butler University because there's a large table back there. Thank you for being here. There was I grew up in Indianapolis in a neighborhood called Hallville. Hallville wasn't the greatest neighborhood. All right. It wasn't the greatest neighborhood, and I went to a private school. And the Indianapolis Star wrote a full-page article about me. And the sales manager, Bernie Sowers, who's a legend in the media business, read that article and called me up while still a student at Butler and said, hey, I'd like to interview you for a job. I saw that you're looking for a job in sales and marketing. So in April before graduation, I interviewed with Bernie, and I kid you not, he said, you're not mature enough yet. He says, you're not mature enough yet. This is a real job. Go get some sales experience and stay in contact with me. So I took a job immediately selling copiers and fax machines for a company up in Carmel called Copyright. And it was a Butler adjunct professor that was the sales trainer for Copyright. His name was Dick Canada. He had worked for Xerox. And I got hardcore training on how to do sales from selling copiers. I stayed in contact with Bernie at Channel 4 and called him in October, and he hired me right on the spot. So, and I never left the industry from that standpoint. And that was back in 1989. So I've been in TV for 32 years.
Wow. And you used to work for Rupert Murdoch, right? Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I used to work for Rupert Murdoch in Houston, Texas. I was VP of sales for Rupert, and that was a really, really good experience for me. It was the last experience that I had before I started buying TV stations. And what I had done is traveled around the country, as you saw in my video, chasing it. Okay, I'm trying to move up, I'm trying to reach the pinnacle of the industry, and at the time, I'm thinking the pinnacle of the industry is to be a general manager of a TV station, okay? So I had pitched a general manager's job with Rupert Murdoch in Cleveland, Ohio, while I was still a VP of sales. And the person doing the hiring said, "DuJuan, why would we take you from doing a super job in Houston, Texas, where we bill over $140 million, and take a star like you and put you in a $20 million property?" And at that point, I realized in that corporate game, it wasn't about me, okay? It was about that bigger company and how they wanted to play chess with me because I was generating their coin, okay? And when that happened, I said to myself, you know what? If you want to get to the promised land, you're going to have to do the promised land on your own, okay? So I ended up leaving in July of 2007, enrolled in the BLT class, and ended up buying stations for in San Angelo and Abilene for $3 million. And that was the impetus for me getting into TV and working for Rupert Murdoch. It kind of opened up my eyes on what I really want to do and how I felt like the corporate game really worked when you're a superstar within that company.
Lessons learned, right?
Lessons
Interesting.
learned, yeah.
So one of the videos I think had, you had mentioned that your experience has allowed you to capitalize on each market's unique characteristics. So what is unique about Indianapolis?
Indianapolis is a big, small town. It's a very big, small town. It hadn't changed much since I left back in the 90s or 2000s, okay? It is a very politically savvy town, but it is a town that if a station embraces the town, this is the kind of welcome that you get. So that's unique from where I sit. I will tell you this, I've never ran a TV station the way I run Wish TV and WNDY. And the reason I didn't run the other ones this way was because this wasn't my community, okay? This is where I was born, this is where I was raised, and if you're in the game of ownership of TV stations, there's no pinnacle bigger than owning a news station, a quality news station in your hometown, because you can affect lives every day. You can affect lives on how you use your megaphone and what you say and what you put on your air every day. And it means that much more when it's your community that you're involved in.
Yes. Well said. So a lot of entrepreneurial questions.
Okay.
What advice do you have for people wanting to start their own business?
First of all, I would say if you really want to start your own business, you need to assess your risk tolerance. You need to assess your risk tolerance, because if you don't have a stomach for ups and downs, low pay, working 24 hours, doing every job, having your own business may not be for you, okay? And after you assess your risk tolerance and you have a stomach that can manage all the problems that come along with running a business, you need to have mentors. You need to have somebody out there that you can call upon and use as a sounding board, because you don't know what you don't know when it comes to running a business.
Yeah. And any local mentors you care to mention?
So I was fortunate that hindsight's always 2020. I had great teachers when I first got in the business. Bernie Sowers, the guy that hired me, Phil Polygraph, God rest his soul. He was a sales manager and a general manager that I had. I have Diane Sitter, who is the dean of the Broadcast Leadership Training Program. She started the program out in DC that taught me how to buy TV stations. And I picked up little things from a lot of different people, being on different boards, picking up things that people say on boards. But those were my immediate mentors that come to mind.
Yeah. Doesn't it seem when you sit on a board or invest somehow in the community, you get more than you give?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I try to give more than I get, okay?
Right.
I try.
Yeah.
That's an entrepreneurial, and that's a servant leader, servant broadcaster type mentality. I like to try to give more than I get because I've been fortunate. I've been given a lot from a lot of different people. So yeah, that's part of what you do when you become an entrepreneur and you are a leader in a community like this.
Yeah, yeah. But no matter how hard you try to give more than you get a lot. You know, it's amazing, I think. Name one lesson you have learned as an entrepreneur.
One lesson that I've learned as an entrepreneur.
You also already mentioned you didn't make any money.
Yeah.
That's when I learned.
No, the buck starts and stops with you, okay? It is your vision. It is your decision making. You're responsible for the entire Megillah, okay? When I first purchased Wish, I had the big staff meeting. I said, hey, I looked at the cars out here, and the cars got rust on the tires, and the cars are bad. I wouldn't have my family drive those cars. So I bought new cars because that was my reputation, that was my image in the community. And I take it a step further, and I tell my news staff, whatever goes on the air, that's a reflection of me. So you're not doing corporate news, so to speak. You're doing news for DuJuan and DuJuan's family and all his vision and whatnot. So the buck starts and stops with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What is your leadership style?
You should ask that far right-hand table back there what my leadership style is.
Far right-hand table?
No,
They're going like this.
No, I'm a hands-on guy. I believe in coaching. I believe in mentoring. I believe in leadership and taking full responsibility for all facets of leadership.
Yeah.
I like to treat people with respect, and I encourage and make sure that all my people do that. I like to coach.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I like to hire managers that like to coach.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, that's it.
Yeah. This is interesting. Do you have any political aspirations?
So I was here for maybe a year. I got a call from one political party, and they asked me to run for mayor, okay? And they were serious about it. I said, you know what? I have no interest in politics. What I do, if you're talking about affecting communities, my television station, I believe, and my digital property is a lot more powerful, okay, as far as affecting the community as I could be as a politician. And when I launch the Multicultural News Network, which we're going to hear about, the influence. I mean, you think about politics, you think about power, you think about influence and all that. I don't need all of that. I mean, my TV stations and my media platform is pretty influential as it is.
Awesome. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there are a lot of questions here. How do journalist standards figure into your content production?
So that's a very good question. So journalism is a very smart, important word, okay? Because I believe what you see on CNN and what you see on Fox News and when you see on these divisive news networks, I don't consider that journalism, okay? I consider journalism as being benign and showing each side of the story and only being a mediator for those opposing positions and not really taking a side. That's pure journalism, okay? Journalism states the facts, okay? When you start swaying and doing opinion in your news product, that for me crosses the line of journalism. So when we hire folks that are reporters for us or content providers for us, we make sure those people are journalistic folks, okay, that are usually benign down the middle and are used to stating the facts. And we have a great hiring team that knows how to scour the internet, scour Twitter, scour all the platforms to see if somebody's leaning a certain way. And if they are, we don't exclude them. We talk to them about them and let them know if we hire them. We don't do that here. We don't do the opinion stuff here, not on our regular shows. We may have an opinion show later, but not today, okay? So journalism for us in Wish TV is paramount and keen as it relates to hiring good reporters and news folks.
Mm-hmm. And we've had a few questions around balance. How do you make sure your team is balanced when they're reporting the news? Is that a training program or?
So when you have a really, really good news management department, okay, and I think we have one of the best news leadership departments in the country, that's what they do. Mm-hmm. I think in aggregation between our leadership team, our 3 managers that run content, 4 managers that run content, we may be well over 100 years in experience, and all of their experience comes from broadcast, okay? And broadcast typically 99% of the time should be right down the middle.
Agreed. How important of a role does your station play in the media portrayal of the minority community?
So another very good question. Who asked that question?
They don't put their names.
That was a really, really good
Everyone
question.
will take credit.
Here's what I'll tell you. When I purchased my first stations in 2007, I didn't know it, but I became the only African American to own TV stations, and I did it via the National Association of Broadcast Leadership Training Program. The NAB is the largest advocacy arm in DC for the NAB. So once I went through that program, the NAB said, wow, we got an African American that just purchased 2 Fox affiliates. Let's prop him up and let's get him out in the community because now we are getting traction, okay, from a diversity standpoint. So I started going on my own dime, traveling to New York, LA, DC, talking to politicians and talking about diversity in media. And everywhere I went, I would hear in symposiums, why isn't black folks portrayed properly on the news? Or why don't we give black perspective or Hispanic perspective or a women's perspective or an Asian perspective on general market news? Why is it just the mainstream? And that was incessant year after year after year from 2007 through now, okay? We still hear it. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, DuJuan, you're the only African American, you're an entrepreneur. You have a responsibility. If everywhere you go, you keep hearing the same story, you got a responsibility to try to do something about it, okay? So when I came here, I said, you know what? This is a great platform for me to give back from some of the comments that I got traveling around the country for years. I said, there needs to be a multicultural reporter that's exclusively dedicated to to talking about multicultural issues. So we hired the first and the only multicultural reporter in the state of Indiana in Katara Winfrey. Now, other stations around the country, guess what they're doing? They're doing the same thing. Why? Because these folks, these multicultural communities need a voice, okay? They need a voice. When you look at newsrooms around America, okay, when you look at all the newsrooms around America, and it's getting better today, the majority of the news directors and the content providers or managers are usually white males or white females, okay? And they see everything that comes on the air. I can't tell you how many times I've heard at a symposium from a black reporter or a Hispanic reporter, when I take my stories to my news director, they tell me it's no good. They tell me it's no good. I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. There is an audience out there for that. Those stories need to be heard. So one thing that we do at our television station, we give every story or every idea the right scrutiny to see if it goes on the air or not. And if it's black and if it deserves to go on air, it goes on air. If it's Hispanic, it deserves to go on air, it goes on air. So we feel like at our television station, we're on the cutting edge and we are leading the pack as it relates to reporting on diversity in media. Why? Because that's my responsibility. That's why I think I'm here.
Great, awesome. I want to go down that path a bit in a second.
Okay.
But this is an interesting question. I think the audience would love to hear from you. How important is it that you align your vision with other African American moguls? Max Siegel's mentioned, I don't know if Max is in the room, haven't seen him in a long time, to maximize the opportunity for diversity in media here?
Very good question again, okay? That is one of the hardest things to do, is to get everybody on the same page. Whether you're running a big board at a university or you're running a board for another company, it's very difficult to sell everybody on a vision, okay? One of the things that I like to do is we are producing a show, okay? We're producing a show called the Business Equity and Opportunity Show. And it's going to be an hour show to teach people how to run a business, start a business with a focus on women, people of color, people of minorities, people that don't get a shot at running a business, okay? And what I plan to do is invite those leaders, those thought leaders, to be on the show so that they can put and go viral their stories and share from a platform standpoint, okay, that normally might not have been done. I told you earlier, I did 84 million page views, okay? When I can invite the Max Siegels of the world and to appear on a show and do a video, and I can put that video online, guess what I just did? I just spread his thoughts, not just on my own air, but we figured out a way to, when people Google equity or how to run a business, okay, our stuff can move to the top, okay? And when you have the Max Siegels of the world or myself online, that will always populate and that will be there. So that's hopefully my chance to give back to the community by using my platform to spread as much goodwill about as many good things as I possibly can.
That is awesome. And we've been kind of nibbling around the edges of your very exciting initiative,
Okay.
MNN. So can we talk a little about that, or is there a video we can show?
I'm going to show you guys about a 3-4 minute clip of the genesis behind the Multicultural News Network, okay? Can you rotate, please? Sound?
And most watched media in America. It's live, seldom time shifted, and continues to be the most pervasive form of content in media. One thing has been noticeably absent in live news, but that is about to change. I am very happy to announce the launch of the all-new Multicultural News Network. This first-of-a-kind, transformative cable news network is being launched by DuJuan McCoy, owner, president, and CEO of Circle City Broadcasting. Mr. McCoy has been in the television news business for 32 years and is the only African-American broadcaster in the United States to own, operate, and manage every aspect of his television stations.
Mr. McCoy not only has a keen understanding of what it takes to be successful in news, but a proven track record of successfully launching news. MNN will be the first and only news network to provide a national television platform for America's diverse, multicultural communities.
America's population and demographic projections show the changing landscape of this country. So, launching an all-inclusive news platform is more important now than ever. Multicultural groups account for over a third of the U.S. population, a number that's expected to rise to over half by the year 2060.
The Multicultural News Network will provide nonpartisan coverage of all political and cultural issues and how those issues impact this nation's diverse communities.
The Multicultural News Network will be based in Indianapolis, Indiana, broadcasting from a 69,000 square foot facility near downtown. Nicknamed Indy, the crossroads of America and the Circle City, Indianapolis is the capital of Indiana and its largest city, and for decades has been considered a perfect test market for everything from products and services to broadcast news.
The Multicultural News Network will set the standard for diverse broadcasting, giving a voice to all underserved communities, including, but not limited to,
Women, Gen Xers, and millennials,
Hispanic and Latino Americans, African Americans, and Asian Americans.
The LGBTQ community, Middle Eastern Americans, Native Americans, and more.
MNN will feature nonpartisan reporting and be inclusive for all sides, left, right, and center, including politics,
current events,
religion,
health and medicine,
Sports,
entertainment,
and more.
The Multicultural News Network will change the way Americans discuss current issues and allow access to news content, both on air and on demand.
And we are very excited about the launch of the all-new MNN, the Multicultural News Network, the all-inclusive news network.
So how is this going to work?
This has been in the works for quite some time now, and as you can probably imagine, it takes a while, and it's very difficult to launch a network, okay? I've been pitching this since 2012. You need at least 2 carriers to carry your network for you to have the capability to launch. I have commitments from Charter, and I'm still working on there's 4 other ones that I'm trying to work on. I need 1 other one to join Charter. But once I launch that will be launched here from 1950 North Meridian Street. I also have a partner in Cox Media Group. Cox Media Group owns a bunch of television stations and radio stations across America, and the objective is to use their television stations in bigger markets as news bureaus around the country. So I'll have a reporter in Atlanta at their television station, maybe 2. They will be on their payroll, but I would pay those people an additional fee to become a regional multicultural news network reporter. Those reporters will be housed at TV stations around the country. The beauty behind what I'm doing for MNN is I'm producing hours for each multicultural group. So I would also be able to syndicate those hours outside of the Multicultural News Network platform. For example, when I do an Asian hour, which will be English speaking, I can syndicate that hour to an Asian channel. When I do my LGBTQ hour, I can syndicate that hour to my LGBTQ team or station, if you will. Same thing for a black station. My black hour can go to a black station. When I first started to pitch MNN, we had secured a building in DC. DC was going to be the base for MNN. Then I didn't know I was buying Indy, and I didn't know I was getting a 69,000 square foot building. So once I closed on Indy, I said, you know what? This is my hometown. I think I want to try to do MNN from my hometown, okay? And that's a big deal for me, okay? Because I think when I pull this off, okay, 10, 15 years from now, I believe Indianapolis can be just like in Atlanta is to CNN, okay? I believe Indianapolis can be that big. You saw the statistics on how multiculturalism is growing in America. That's a trend that you can't stop, okay? That trend is not going to stop, okay? And that trend where it says 56% will be multicultural, that was not counting LGBTQ. That was not counting women. That was not counting LGBTQ, women. That was brown people, okay? So when you add women, Gen Xers, LGBTQ in there, that station becomes a great platform for a lot of different eyeballs. And I feel like with all my digital companies that I have, I think I will be able to attract those eyeballs to watch news that is delivered, produced by, and delivered by each persuasion.
Very exciting. And right here in Indianapolis, a hometown entrepreneur. Well done. I will let you know that Kira Amstutz and I will be following up with you around the Economic Club version of commercials on the TV. And
Sure, you got it.
We'll get all that worked out. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being here and the conversation. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Today's presentation will be available online at economicclubofindiana.com. Please join us next month on Thursday, March 24th, to hear from President and CEO of the American Red Cross, Gail McGovern. And I heard she is outstanding. Be sure and purchase your tickets on the website. Information and tickets for any of these events are on economicclubofindiana.com. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.